Okay, so this is a short discussion on a format, no, that we're going to use in our strategic audit output, no, because at the end of this term you're required to come up with a final paper, and we will be following this format. This is actually the minimum requirement, no, for industry practice, no, every time we talk about formats for strategic audit. If you try to look it up in the internet and look for samples for strategic audit, you will have the following sections. Now, for our format, no, for our paper, this is just the minimum requirement. Okay, you may add additional sections, no, as long as they are relevant in our analysis. Ayan. Okay, basically when we talk about analysis, no, for strategic audit, we normally use the 5D approach, no. What's this 5D approach? Okay, you have the define and describe, then you have the discern, and then finally you have the decide, and then you have defend. Okay, now in this format, okay, if you try to look at the components later, you will find out that these elements, this 5D is already integrated in the format. Anyway, let's start. Now, how do I ayun. So, what are the components, no, or what are the elements of a strategic audit? Ayan. Um, First, of course, you have the part which allows you to describe what is happening in the organization. So that's the first section, no? What's the current situation? Okay, we'll discuss about that later. Okay, next you have the corporate governance. Okay, this is where you describe and define the functions, okay, of those who are governing the organization. And then when you try to discern, okay, you have section number 3. This is where your SWOT analysis starts, no? Ano nga natin yan? Okay, so you have corporate governance and current situation. Okay, this is where you describe and define. And then from here, this is already the start, no? That's the start of your SWOT analysis. You have your external environment analysis, and then followed by the internal environment analysis. Then you try to analyze the strategic factors. Okay? And then, okay, so ayan, magkasama lahat yan, no? Okay? So this is now the end of your SWOT analysis. From there, you're now going to identify possible alternatives, okay? And you recommend the best alternative. So this is when you decide and defend. Also, in the paper, you're going to discuss how this will be implemented. So very close to recommendations, no? Very close to recommendations. It's just that in this case, under implementation, okay, you will have a detailed plan on how you're going to implement, parang recommendations din. And then on the side, okay, there will be a section for comments, no, on how it was actually implemented. And then finally, you have evaluation and control. Under evaluation and control, you're now going to compare, no, your plans of implementation versus how it was actually implemented. Okay, so yun lang po yung laman ng papers natin. Let's try to go to the details, no? Starting with the current situation. In the current situation, you're going to discuss, no? You're going to describe and define your past corporate performance. Now, when we say corporate performance, we are not confined with financial performance, no? So you have to ask the company, okay? So how do you define your performance? How do you measure your performance? Do you use some form of indices, maybe some ratios, okay? Are you using the growth rate approach, okay? And others, no? These are just examples. Soon in our next topics, I will discuss the three most important tools, no, in evaluating corporate performance. Okay? But as of this point, okay, ayan, yung first part, you describe past corporate performance. Okay, sir, what about the current Okay, yes, you may include your current analysis. Okay, so okay lang po yun. And then letter B, you have the strategic posture. Okay, so what are these? Here you're going to define and describe the company's vision or mission, and the objectives, strategies, and then you have the policies. Okay, now sometimes they don't just use mission. Sometimes you have vision and mission. Now when we say vision kasi, let me write that down. Okay, normally meron pa yan vision. When we say vision, ito yung pinaka mataas na level. It's the highest uh, level of the objective. Can you say objective? Okay, kasi it can never be attained, no? Like for example, to improve the quality of life. Oh, so mga ganon, no? Okay, and sometimes it is integrated with the mission. Okay, so when you hear statements like to improve the quality of life by becoming the leading provider of the fastest internet services in the whole Philippines. Okay, so ayun. Ganun din, it's still almost no unachievable. Ganun eh. That's how you describe your vision and mission statements. No, mahirap talaga siyang i-achieve, but that is your main goal. Okay, now if you try to let's say be more specific, okay, from the vision and mission, you now come up with the objectives. Okay, so what are your objectives so that you can improve the quality of life? Okay, by providing the fastest or the best internet services. So what will be your objective? Okay, o di sasabihin mo by increasing or by intensifying structural development, focusing on 4G and 5G development, okay, and putting up the most powerful internet towers, if that's how you call it, di ba? So those are all your objectives, okay? And then if you try to quantify na, come up with a more detailed plan, no, on how you can achieve these objectives. Take note, objectives, marami yan. Okay, that's now what you call your strategies, no? Like for example, for the next 5 years, okay, we should be able to put up, no, at least 100, no, 100 cell towers or 100 internet towers ba yung tawag natin doon, in the whole Philippines, okay, divided into 20 towers per year, which is 10 10 towers every 6 months in these locations. Ganon. So that is now your strategy. Okay, that's just an example. No? And then you also come up with policies that will support these strategies. Like what are the company do's and don'ts. Okay, so that they will achieve, no, or they will be successful in these strategies. Anyway, this one is already discussed in your management 2C and other management subjects, no. Pero as of this point, I just want you to understand, no, parang review lang, these policies should support your strategies. Once these policies are followed, it will be easier for you to implement your strategies. And once you have achieved your strategies, okay, that will help you achieve your objectives. Okay, and if the process continues, eventually you will achieve, no, your vision and your mission. Okay, so that is now your current situation. So are we going to develop, sir? That's the common question. Sir, are we going to develop these ratios, growth rate indices? No, you just have to ask them, no, what is the current, okay, and then that is now what you will use. Sir, paano kapag wala? Then you can talk to management if you can come up with the tools, okay, that will help you describe the past performance. Okay? So, ayun. Sir, what about the vision, mission, and objectives? Okay? Meron yan, no, as a corporation. Later on, I'm going to discuss, no, the entity requirement. Pero as of this point, mas mainam kapag corporation, no, and they should have been operating for, at least 3 to 5 years. The longer the existence, the better. Okay, so, ayun. And then, ano pa? So, sir, are we going to develop this? Hindi. You're not going to make this. No? You just have to ask them. Mas maganda pag matagal na silang nag-exist kasi sigurado meron silang vision, mission, objectives, strategies, and policies. So, sir, there are a lot of departments and there are a lot of policies. Okay, are we going to consolidate all of these? Okay, as long as they are relevant and in line with the vision, mission, and objectives, the answer is yes. Sometimes kapag kahit nga hindi relevant okay, sometimes you still have to compile them, no, so that you can discuss with the management that hey, you have the following objectives, no, you have the following policies, and these policies that does not support the strategies to achieve these objectives. Okay, you may discuss that with the management. Okay, so kung ako lang, no, at the beginning of the process, okay, it's really hard to identify which of these policies are relevant. So as long as they are available for compilation, no, I'm going to get them and include them in the paper. Okay po, smile. Let's go to the second part. It's still part of the define and describe. Here, you're going to discuss the major, no, manpower of the organization, no, starting with the board of directors and then followed by the top management. Here, you're going to discuss, no, define and describe. Oh, yeah, you're going to define and describe, number one, the functions, no, of these people. Ano yung ginagawa nila? Okay, so if there are, let's say, 5 board of directors, so you're going to describe what's the function of board of director number 1, okay, which is most of the time, no, the one acting as the chairman of the board. And then you have the board of director number 2, okay, which is the vice chairman. Diba? Board of director number 3, okay, 4 and 5, okay? Because most of the time, even though they are board of directors, sometimes they choose amongst themselves, no, who's going to lead or to look over operations from major departments, no? Like for example, you can have board of director number 5 as the one focusing on HR, board of director number 4, no, uh, the one that focuses on, let's say, finance, no, finance and accounting. Okay, so yung mga ganong bagay. And then, okay, let's go to top management naman. Okay, aside from board of directors, which are also members of the top management, okay, there are still other people, no? Like, for example, the heads of each department. Ayan, so you try to describe, no, their functions, okay, define their functions, ganon. And, of course, don't forget their personal profile. Not just for top management, but also board of directors. Now, when we say profile, let me write that down para pwede nyong i-screenshot, no? First, define and describe their functions. And then, don't forget the profile. Okay po, now when we say profile, you know, the educational background, maybe the experience related, ganon, or job, how do you call that? It's not job description. The job description has something to do with the functions Kunyari, work experience, work history, okay. Ayan. So, kasama lahat po yun sa profile ng board of directors and top management. Okay? Next, you have external environment. This is when the SWOT analysis starts, no? Under external environment, okay, you will be using EFAS. Okay, what is EFAS? This is the external factors analysis summary. Parang ganon. Okay, and in your external environment, you focus on opportunities and threats. Okay, you try to identify opportunities and threats. How? Okay, by analyzing the natural environment, okay, societal environment, and then you have the task environment, also known as your industry analysis. Okay, so for example, natural environment, very easy. Like for example, if we are talking of ano kayang magandang business, Let's say, nasa food and beverage tayo, yun yung industry natin, no? And we're talking about Jollibee. So, it's the natural environment, okay, of Jollibee. So, where are they located? Okay, most of the time, or majority of their operations, they are located in cities, in urban areas, mga ganun, with the operating hours of like this and like that. So, ganon. Okay, pwede kayo mag-interview. Okay, so you will have a better description of the natural environment of the corporation. Okay, and when you talk about environmental analysis, okay, you can start with the top-down approach. Okay, so top-down approach na naman, no? So you have your global environment, then followed by your um, regional, no, global region, then you have your national, and then you have your local. Okay? So, ganun din po sa societal environment. Okay, under societal environment, you describe, no, the corporation in its in the society, no, in the context of the society where it's operating. So, ano ba yung role, kunyari, ng Jollibee? Okay, ano yung parang, ano ba? How do I simplify societal environment? Okay, how, how does it interact? Ayun, what are the entities, okay, that your companies interact to or interact with? Ayan, so that's your societal environment. Now, there are a lot of approaches to conduct this. Most of the time, okay, based on my observation, okay, normally it starts with the description of the customer, and then the description of the supplier, the description of the community, ayan, to where it operates, ayan, and then, and so on and so forth. Ganon, di ba? Now, your societal environment is not confined with, let's say, ano ba, um, with your suppliers or customers, yung tao lang, hindi. Okay, sometimes you have the internet, no? Yung yung Facebook society, ganun. What's the role being played by the entity in this type of environment? Okay, so meron ba significant ba yung role niya? Ganun, di ba? Like for example, if we're talking of Chongsan versus, let's say, Lazada, kay Lazada, kay has a lot of impact, no, pagdating sa internet sales and purchases, okay, as compared to, let's say, Chongsan. Okay, so Chongsan department store. Okay, so yung mga ganong bagay. And then you also have your task environment. Under task environment, this is when you describe, no, the industry where you belong, no. Like for example, if your company is Jollibee, so you will be talking about the food and beverage industry. Okay po. And then from there, no, from there you're now going to identify what are the opportunities and what are the threats, no, found in this environment. Okay po. So, ayun. Ano pa ba yung mga kailangan ninyong malaman dito? Sometimes in the EFAS, no, you're going to, let me see if I have the slide. No? Ayan. You're going to analyze the weight, okay, and then assign some rating. This one is already discussed in other subjects. But there are different ways, no, to assign the weight. Sa mga nabasa ko, okay, and when I ask other practitioners in this industry, they use the how do you call this chart, no? For example, you have three major environments. So you have the natural environment, and then you have the, let's say, societal environment, and then you have the task environment. Okay, so ayun. If you're going to assign weights, okay, for opportunities and threats, okay, you try to identify the opportunities and threats that are located in this area. Okay, why? Because it is an opportunity or a threat in all the environment. Okay, so mas malaki yan. And then you try to identify the opportunities and threats found in these areas. Okay, Because it affects to environment, tama? And then finally you have this. Okay, so ganyan yung ginagawa nila. Okay. And then you have others. Ayan. Now, so how do we assign weights? Okay. This one is subjective, no? This one is subjective. Now, that's why this subject is offered to graduating students, because as of this point, we assume that you already know how to practice your professional judgment. Okay. Now, in my case, no, as an advice to you, if you're going to use this approach, okay, you're going to assign weights for this one na mas mabigat, followed by this and this. Kaya, pagpunta natin sa EFAS, External Factor Analysis Summary, okay, after identifying opportunities, saan ba nanggaling itong opportunity number 1 na to? Okay? Is it common to the tree? Okay? Common to environment? Ayan. Or isa lang ba? So, syempre, siya yung mas malaki dapat. Okay? So, ayan. So, sa tingin mo, this one is 60%. So, this one is 20%. Okay, 10, 5, and 5%. And then you can discuss this, no? Discuss this with management. Sometimes it's even better if you ask them to assign the weights, okay? And then ask them to come up with the rating. But you have to come up with your own rating also, no? Sir, so sino yung yung susundin namin? You can come up with the average, no? Kasi ganito yan. Sometimes the rating may be self-serving, di ba? Kapag kayo naman, sometimes your rating may be based on information, okay, which is not yet understood by you. Ganun. Pero kagandahan, if you're the one who's going to make the rating, you will be objective. Ganun. So, may mga trade-off yan. Okay? You can come up with your own approach on how to come up with the rating and the weight. But there are some notes here, no? First, okay, the sum of all weights must be 1. Okay po? Okay, so, ayun. Weight each factor from 0.0, which is not important, to 1.0, which is most important. So, this means you can have 0.2, no? Or 0.05 or 0.005. Okay po? Rate each factor from, now this one is for the weights, yung number 1. And then number 2 is for the rating, from 1 to 5. Okay, so ayun. And then you multiply the 2 to get the weighted score. Okay, and then explain the rationale for each factor. Again, in this case, you don't have to do this by yourself, no? Okay, you don't have to do this on your own. You can ask someone, no, from the management. Okay, bakit kaya ganito? Okay, so you ask them. In opportunities, the weight is 30%. Okay, for opportunity number 1, and then you rated this at 3. Okay, can you discuss why? So, yun, i-discuss mo lang yung mga weighted score nila. Or, once the weighted score is already computed, you ask them, no? You ask them, based on the following analysis, opportunity number 1 and opportunity number 3 is ranked as the highest. Can you tell us why? Okay, so, ayun. And then, from there, you can now identify, not just identify, but you'll be able to discern and understand, okay, which of these factors are the most important. Okay? Ano yung pinakamalaki ang role niya sa pag-strategize ng company. Now, if you have the external factor analysis, you also have the internal factor analysis summary. Okay? For internal factors, you try to identify your strengths and your weaknesses. Okay? So, here you're going to describe and analyze the corporate structure, no? So, a good place to start, no? A good place to start will be the organizational chart. Ayan. So, you analyze the organizational chart. Now, when we say analyze, you're not just going to draw, no? But you try to discuss, okay? Why is this put on top, and then why do we have assistants at this level? Why do we have 5 vice presidents? Okay, under the vice presidents, okay, why vice president number 1 has 2 managers. Okay, so ayun, i-discuss natin, no? Not just the functions. Well, of course, you have to discuss the function, but you also have to describe why. Okay, so dinidiscern na natin yan eh. And then, okay, one of the favorite, no? You have the corporate culture. You try to identify their corporate practices. Okay, and of course, since you are an outsider, okay, it's best to interview someone who can discuss, okay, the corporate culture. Okay, so ayun, again, this one is already covered in other subjects. Okay, now, so sir, where is a good place to start, no, in corporate culture? You try to read, for example, the manuals muna, and then try to analyze the existing policies, and then you ask them, bakit ganito? Okay, what's the basis for this policy? Okay, and then you ask them to describe, no, the formal and informal relationships found inside the corporation, no? Like for example, okay, what do I mean formal versus informal? Formal relationship, you have the vice president, and then you have how many levels, no? You have the president, and then you have how many levels bago pumunta doon sa staff na nasa ilalim. Okay, o formal 'yon, no? After describing the function, you now ask, let's say, a representative, no, from bottom management, okay, dun sa mga staff nila, okay, how do they relate or how do they communicate, no, with top management, ganun, madali ba silang kausap, okay, were there practices, ayun pa, maganda, are there practices in the organization which are not documented, okay, pero it's been implied, parang ganun na this is the way. Ayun. 'Di ba? So, kung ba para ang corporate culture will answer the question, what are the ways? Parang may palabas na gano'n na, this is the way. Anyway, letter C, you have your corporate resources. You describe, no? What are the resources found in the following areas? Sometimes the question that I get here is that, sir, paano yan? Okay, the company that we are analyzing doesn't have information technology, okay, as a separate department. Yung mga ganun. Or they don't have research and development. Now, it doesn't have to be a separate department, no? Because sometimes these functions are integrated with other areas, no? Like for example, operations and logistics, naka-integrate dyan yung marketing, okay? Or research and development is integrated with information technology. So, yung mga ganun. Okay po? Okay, anyway, it's just corporate resources. This is what you are describing and analyzing. You're not describing the following departments. Okay, it's just the resources used in the following areas. Okay, so, ayan. And this one is an example of the internal factor analysis summary. Okay, just like EFAS. Again, you try to identify the strengths, okay, and then you have to identify the threats, okay, come up with the weight, and then come up with the rating, multiply, and then try to discuss. Ayan. And it's easier though if most of your discussions and comments will come from a representative from the company. Why do they think it's like this? Ganon. So, yun yung first level. And then, second level of may level kasi yan eh. Okay? Yung second level ng analysis, ng comments, yung manggagaling naman sa iyo. Okay? You try to triangulate things, no? Anong ibig sabihin nun? At least tatlo yung panggagalingan yan. For example, may nanggaling sa company, bakit ito pinakamataas, bakit ito pinakamababa, and then number 2, sa tingin mo, bakit ito yung pinakamataas, at bakit ito yung pinakamababa, and then finally, okay, para triangulate, tatlo, di ba? You come up with another source, no? Okay, let's say someone in the authority. So, for example, if you're trying to analyze Jollibee, ayan, Jollibee. siguro ang nasa authority niyan, okay, to describe the operations of Jollibee, yung mga major investors nila, di ba? So, ayun. O kaya, ano pa ba? Yung mga you can also ask a competitor. Now, take note, okay, medyo, ingat tayo dun. You have to be cautious. You can ask a competitor, but you are not supposed to share any confidential information. So, sir, paano namin tatanungin if you're not going to share? No, like, are we going to ask McDonald's? Okay, and ask them, why do you think Jollibee's most important weakness is like this? O di nalaman na ng McDonald's kung ano yung weakness. Diba? There is a way, no, on how you can ask. Let's say, don't mention Jollibee. Okay, you can say that, uh, what if one of your competitors, okay, found out that the weakness is like this, or if you are ganon, if this is your weakness, okay, why do you think this is the situation, ganon, bakit kaya? So yung mga ganong bagay, okay po, or maybe you can talk to the, let's say, consultant, no, the independent auditor, ganyan, okay, that can also help, okay, in coming up with comments and discussion, okay. So, ayun, reviewin niyo yung mga subject niyo sa management, okay, pertaining to SWOT analysis. And then after that, you have the analysis of strategic factors, no? This is when you try to put things together, your SWOT. Okay, here you identify the key internal and external strategic factors. And then you try to review them, okay, based on the mission and objectives. Parang kanya eh. You review the mission and objectives. Okay. How do you review them? Okay. You try to relate them in your SWOT analysis. Okay. Now, when we say you try to relate, try to understand, no, how the vision and mission is being affected by the internal and external strategic factors. Okay? And then, are your strategies supporting, okay, your vision, mission, and objectives? Okay, so ganun natin siya i-analyze. And then, in the process, ayan na, again, you're going to assign the weights, okay, which came from IFAS and EFAS, okay. You're going to come up with the rating. Now, this one, okay, there are two point of views here eh. Sometimes, ang sasabihin nila, uy, your weights and your ratings, okay, should come from the first and second schedule. But then there's another site, no, that states this should be a separate weight and a separate rating, because the weights and the rating should be based on how they relate or how they contribute to the mission and objective of the organization. Actually, sa umpisa pa lang, no? Sa umpisa pa lang, in coming up with EFAS and IFAS, okay, the weights and rating should already be based on how they relate to the vision, mission, and objectives. Okay? So, ayun, kaya nga may mga common questions tayo dito eh, sa taas eh. Like, for example, okay, are the current mission and objectives appropriate in light of the key strategic factors and problems? Okay, so yung mga question mo na magiging basis for rating. Should the mission and objectives be changed? If so, how? Okay. If they are changed, what will be the effects on the firm? Okay, so this time, okay, parang yung mission and objective ang papalitan, di ba? So that they can adapt to the strategies. Okay? Di ba? Parang mali, ano? Okay, pero ganito kasi yan, okay? After doing that, no? After doing that, ilalagay mo yung sagot mo doon sa mga comments. And then, if you are rating naman, if you're rating the strategies, okay, how are these strategies or how are these factors affecting the vision, mission, and objective of the organization? Medyo malabo pa, yes, I'm sure, medyo malabo pa, okay? Pero, on the process, no, maiintindihan nyo yan. The best way to start is, first, you review your SFAS based on IFAS and EFAS. You try to research, okay, paano po tayo mag-assign ng weights, because there are different ways on how you can assign weights. And then finally, how do you rate them? Ang importante, you come up with this table. Now, before I forget, kay ano to, the most important, not really the most important, but one of the unique features of this table is that you're now going to consider the duration, no? Duration of these factors. So, you have 1, 2, multiply, and then number 4, you check the appropriate duration. Is this for short term, intermediate, or long term? Now, for our paper, we will just use 3 years, no? 1 to 3 years for intermediate. Okay, and then 3 years or more than 3 years para long term. But it really depends on the company. Sometimes, if it's within 5 years, no? Short term pa rin siya. No, di ba? Pero sa accounting, hindi. Short term kapag less than a year. Di ba? So, ayun. 5 to 10 years, intermediate, more than 10 years, yun yung long term nila. So, it really depends. Okay? For the purpose of our paper, we have to make certain adjustments. Ayan. And also, this is common, no? Common in practice. Pag more than 3 years or more than 5 years, okay? So, doon lang siya magiging long term. Okay? Sa atin, 3 years lang. And then, explain the rationale used for each factor. Okay, so you put that in your comments. Now, okay, that is where your discern or your analysis will stop. Okay? Diba? Patapos na tayo. Okay, from there, you're now going to come up with alternatives. Okay, so what are now your strategic alternatives? Pros and cons, no? How do you put things together? So, sir, how do we come up with strategies? There are different ways, no? But using SWOT analysis, normally, ewan ko kung na-discuss ko na to dati, you use your strength to overcome the weakness. You try to optimize your opportunities, okay? And minimize your threats. Oh, ganon. Your strategies, okay? Your strategies in this one, no, to you to maximize your strength, okay, or how you maximize your strength to overcome your weakness may also be used, no, may also be used to to address or to respond threats, and they can also be used to optimize or take advantage of opportunities. Okay po? So, ito talaga pinaka-importante. Know thyself. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Okay. Try to minimize this, maximize this. Try to come up with strategies that will use the strengths to overcome the weakness. Pag nagawa mo to, madali na lang. Okay. You try to gauge them. Are these strategies, okay, good in the sense that they will allow you to respond properly or react to threats or minimize threats, and will they allow you, no, will they allow you to take advantage of opportunities? Okay, so ayun, now once you have identified strategic alternatives, okay, you can now recommend, no, come up with the best strategy. You decide, no, which is the best strategy, or pwede sabihin mo, lahat ito ay magandang strategy, it's just that we're going to rank them, pwede rin yun. Kaya nga lang, there are strategies that are exclusive and independent. Now, when we say independent, the acceptance of one strategy does not affect the acceptance or the implementation of another strategy. But when we say exclusive, no, exclusive strategies, one strategy, okay, the acceptance of one strategy may result to the rejection of another strategy. Okay, so, ayun, kailangan maingat tayo doon. And then you support strategies by sample policies. Okay, so if this is your strategy, what will now be your policy? Ayan, major policies lang naman. Okay po? So, ayun. Ano pa? And others. Ayan, you have the implementation process, evaluation and control, and then exhibits. Now, in this case, since we are just consultants, no, mga external lang tayo, mga outsiders lang tayo. We're not going to be the one who's going to implement. Instead, we're just going to give them an idea. So, parang part pa rin ng recommendation. Okay? Eto siguro, ano kaya yung magandang gawin dito para maintindihan nyo? Dapat hindi kasama sa paper ito eh. Okay? Because we have the revisitation. Ayan, we have to revisit strategies. And the revisitation of strategies, okay, let's say after 3 years or after 5 years, this is when you prepare, no, these areas. How they were implemented. Ayan. You evaluate them, what's the difference of the plan and how it was actually implemented, and then what will you do next. Okay, so ayun. So sir, paano yan? Okay, nag-strategize pa naman kami, pero syempre wala pa kaming na-implement. Now, hindi naman lahat ng strategies na ire-recommend ninyo or i-identify ninyo ay bago. I know some of them, no, or most of them are already being implemented. Okay? So, you can use that, no, to not necessarily to complete, no, but to start these sections. Okay? So, ayun, not necessarily zero ka sa implementation, zero sa evaluation and control. You talk to the management. Okay, so ano ba yung plano ninyo noon? Okay, ano na yung nagawa ninyo? Okay, so let's see the difference. What was actually implemented and what is the difference? And then the last part, exhibits, no? This is where you put your attachments na, like for example, a copy of the company's vision, mission, and objective, okay? You can attach, let's say, their DTI registration, ganon, or SEC registration, okay? So, ayun, mga business permit nila, kung pwede nilang ipahiram sa inyo, ganon, just to prove the existence of the company. Here, you can attach, no? Attach the, let's say, interview script. Okay, yung script, ayan, yung question and answer, okay? Ganun. Now, I suggest, no, when you interview, okay, you document everything. Okay? Isulat ninyo and then i-record ninyo. Tapos, yung interview na yon i-upload ninyo pero dapat private lang. Okay? It should not be shared. Ayan. Now, I'm suggesting that you upload for backup purposes. Okay? Kasi hindi lang natin alam yung mangyayari. But then again, it should not be shared. Okay? So, ayun. Ano pa? Of course, yung exhibits, pwede nyo i-exhibit dito. Kunyari, yung kahit sample profile lang ng 1 or 2, no? Of your board of directors, 1 or 2 of the top management. Okay? Don't forget also the profile of the researchers, no? Yung, let's say, kahit short lang na curriculum vitae. Okay? Picture with your biodata. Okay? So, yung mga ganung bagay. And anything that you think is important and relevant in the company analysis, okay, or in the writing of your paper. Like for example, maybe a Google map, no, may be relevant. Bakit? Kasi it helps the reader to have an understanding on the natural environment. Okay? So, ayun. Okay? Sometimes you may add, let's say, ano na yun? Nakalimutan ko na. Yung brochure nila, ganun. Brochure or mga flyers na relevant. Okay, so kayo nang bahala doon. Okay? Yung iba, ginagawa nila pati pictures. Of course, you can put it in your exhibit, no? Yung mga pictures niyo, kaya nung nag-interview kayo, kay pictures ng company, because sometimes it's easier to describe things, okay, if it is accompanied by a picture. Okay, so, ayun. Ano pa? Okay, so as an assignment, okay, wait lang ha. Magkakape lang ako saglit. As an assignment, as of this point, you try to look for group members, no? minimum of 3, maximum of 5 members. Now, I'm not going to use canvas anymore, no? Kasi pag minsan, naglolo ko pala. What happened last time was, we are supposed to group ourselves and then may nagpass. May nagpass na nauna na wala pang ka-group, so nasira yung number. And so that's one, yung pagkaka-explain sa akin. Nasira yung ginawa ng canvas na grouping, kaya may mga hindi na nakre-credit na scores, ganun, or hindi na nakre-credit na scores, hindi nakre-credit na submissions. Okay? So, ayun. And then sometimes, no, due to connection issues, hindi nakakapasok yung mga iba, yun yung dumating sa akin, sa aking kaalaman. Okay, so may mga glitch yan. So what are we going to do? Okay, um, kanya-kanya tayo na maghanap ng sarili nating group. Okay, from 3 to 5 members. Bawal ang more than 5, bawal po ang pair at solo. Okay po? Bakit ganon? Because no man is an island. Ayan. In the process, you should be able to, you know, socialize. Ayan, work as a group. Okay? And then, you choose your own members. Okay? Of course, you're supposed to assign a leader. Okay? Aside from that, okay, pag meron na kayong group, you're going to look for a company, preferably corporation. Okay? Corporation. Normally kasi, corporation, sila yung mga may vision, mission, and objective statements. Ganon. Kaya kapag partnership, meron din pa iba, pa isa-isa. Kapag sole proprietorship, ay nako, mahirap. Mahirap maghanap ng sole proprietorship na entity na kompleto sila sa vision, mission, objective, yung mga ganun. Okay po? So, baka sabihin nyo mas madali kapag sole proprietor kasi isa lang yung owner. Wala tayong board of directors. Tapos, siya na rin yung top manager. So, makakatipid tayo. Okay? Well, baka hanggang dun lang yung magagawa nyo. Diba? So, mas maganda pag corporation. And then, pag corporation, maraming departments yan na gumagawa rin ng mga kanya-kanyang SWOT analysis. They establish their own strategies for each departments. Okay? So, I'm just saying na mas organized kasi pag corporation. Okay? And then, I suggest, okay, they've been operating for at least 3 years na, no? 3 to 5 years. The longer, the better. Okay? Ibig sabihin kasi mas established na sila. Okay? And it should be from medium to large size. Pag small kasi, I'm not saying na kapag small, hindi na siya kasama, no? Pero madalang kasi tayo makakita ng small companies na kumpleto sa vision, mission, and objective. Ayan, mga statements na ganun. Okay, so from medium to large. Okay, pero, ayaw nga pala, may question, sir. What if makahanap kami ng company na small lang yung size, pero kumpleto sila ng vision, mission, objective. They have board of directors. They have the different areas in the corporation, no? From research and development to marketing, yung mga ganon. Okay? So, pwede rin basta kumpleto. Okay? And then, I suggest it should be accessible. No? Accessible to members kasi madalas kayong mamasyal sa kanila to conduct interview, or pag hindi man kayo makapunta doon physically, okay, you can siguro, no, you can email them, no, kasi may kakilala kayo and they will allow you for a Zoom interview man lang. So, yung mga ganong bagay. So, yun yung ibig ko sabihin ng accessible. It's easy to get information. Okay? Now, once you have this, okay, you can start writing the company profile. Okay po, so how do you start writing the company profile? Siyempre, yung background ng company, di ba? You know, first section, okay, in the current situation, okay, what is happening right now. Ganun, so, you start with the background, what's the operation, ganon, and so on and so forth. Okay po. So, that's it for today. Our next lesson will be on the different tools or criteria tools, okay, used in evaluating the company. Okay. Tools in SWOT analysis, which is most of the time used in evaluating the company. Ayan. These tools will be integrated, no, in our strategic audit. Okay. it's supposed to be our lesson muna before this one. Kaya nga lang nakaka-overwhelm. Okay, so mas maganda makita muna natin yung format ng paper or sample ng strategic audit so that yung mga susunod na lesson, konti na lang yung susunod na lesson natin eh. Yung mga susunod na lesson, alam natin kung saan siya i-integrate. Okay po? So, I guess that's it. And have a nice day.